You're listening to the Death Rattle Crew, a Hearthstone podcast.
DRC, welcome to episode 3 of the Death Rattle Crew. I'm going to go ahead and apologize ahead of time. The audio quality of this episode is not up to par. Went back through, looked through all of the, both myself and guest audio segments, could not figure out what on earth was going on with the quality. There's some crackles and hisses every now and then. So if you don't want to listen to this one, I do not blame you, but the content is still there if you want to listen to it. So check it out if you want to. We should have all the issues figured out though. So besides that, don't forget that you can reach us at Death Rattle Crew on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Twitch. You can find us at our website at www.deathrattlecrew.com, and you can email us at mail@deathrattlecrew.com. We'll go ahead and start the show. Welcome to Meta Anatomy, your one-stop for everything meta in Hearthstone this week. Today, I'm joined by Tom Jessup Jessup.
Hello.
And Matt Mushu Hill.
Good morning, sir.
Guys, how are we doing this week? How was this week? Before we even get into the meta, how's everyone doing? Let's do a little housekeeping.
I didn't get to play much Hearthstone this week. Lots of tears rolling down my face. But I did get to watch people play, which is not as fun. But still cool. I kept informed.
I definitely had a down spike of not playing as much Hearthstone. I when looking back at reflecting on how much I'd actually played this week, I just see a lot of losses with Druid. But yeah, I've had a good week. I sort of rekindled my love for World of Warcraft, which is always nice because you refresh yourself with the lore of Hearthstone, which is is a valuable thing in my mind.
Yeah, I disagree.
I'm the same with you guys. I didn't. This week was a little crazy at work, so I had a crazy schedule. I still got in some really good time. I was playing a Ramp Druid. We talked about that last week, and I'm sitting, I think, at a 68% win rate at about 33 games. So not bad. It's gone pretty well.
That'll 68%. That'll do great things if you can keep it. Like I think one stat I heard, this is like mid last year, was Kalento had like a 75% win rate, and that's sort of what you need to secure rank 1. Is to because it becomes elo based. Either that or just like be hella streaky and like win against, say, like the other top 10. Lose against the other top. No, what was I saying? Basically, try and win more elo. So there's some games will be worth more elo, and other games you'll be worth less.
And with that, I've watched a lot too, and I just remembered this, Matt. You posted a video early in our chat about, who was it? Was it Savitz? Where chat saw lethal before he did. I think we watched that live at the same time. That was unreal.
That was ridiculous. For those of you who have not seen this, it was basically Savitz. It was a combo draw. Yeah, the opponent got Gallywix out of his Sneeds, and basically he was able to double combo because playing all the cards for the combo gave him enough coins to give him the mana. So it was pretty slow.
What did he? So he had a Force of Nature and 2 Savage Roars and an Innervate. So he was able to Force of Nature and Savage Roar, Innervate Savage Roar. So that gave him 4 coin cards. So he was 4 damage shy of doing lethal. Well, he had those 4 coins, and he had a swipe in his hand.
That's right.
Perfect.
It was just like threading the needle.
Yeah. And the thing was, he was like, I think I lost, and he kept playing through it. And lo and behold, chat's like, lethal. And sure enough, he did the math. He said, oh my God. He said, I think that's the first time chat has ever been right about lethal. So you saw, if you watched that, you saw it there first. Twitch chat is good at the game, finally. I'm impressed.
Oh.
And I did watch some of the it was a Korean tournament. I'm going to say it wrong. I want to say it was the Invino Invitational, I think.
I did not, but I think I heard about it.
It was pretty good. I watched some of, I think it was Strive Crow. I think it was Strive Crow and Savitz that were playing. There were some good games there. Again, Druid was on top, just absolutely destroyed some of those matches I watched.
Druid's really balanced. It's just it's one of the better things. I was looking at Magic Amy's tier list because she came out with a new one. It doesn't look like super different, other than the fact that I guess she kind of like squished the tiers and
yeah. What's on top this week? Go ahead and
so
if you got it open.
So meta so Oil Rogue has, I guess, surpassed Mech Mage. I don't really, so like in the last tier list that she came out with, she said that Mech Mage was the best deck, which I did not agree with. I think we all agreed that it wasn't like the best deck, but it was definitely like really, really good. I'm not really sure what the best deck is in my opinion right now, but she says it's Oil Rogue, and I don't entirely disagree with that. They basically just swap places. Control Paladin is apparently better than mid-range Paladin. From what I've noticed, the way you play the deck is pretty much the main difference between Control Paladin and mid-range Paladin. There's a difference in cards, but really the only main difference between Control Paladin and mid-range Paladin right now is that Control Paladin has more spells and is better suited towards the meta, and mid-range is a little more creature-based. Let's see. So Oil Rogue, Mech Mage, Control Paladin, mid-range Druid is apparently better than Ramp Druid right now. Is that because mid-range
that's
combo more so?
Well, that's the version I like.
Yeah.
It's because KT is too like inconsistent.
Yeah.
I think that's the crux is like that end game, navigating a game to get to that end where you have KT and your big things is a little bit difficult in where like the problem is with the prevalence of Oil Rogue, you open yourself up to SAP, and SAP is just like a huge tempo swing when used. It's just like goodbye KT, and this like bam, 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 you're dead. And
that's why like Oil Rogue's really, really good right now, because it also seems like Control Warrior is still obviously good. It's fallen off a little bit.
You're happy?
A little bit. It's the main counter to Oil Rogue right now is Control Warrior, and because Control Warrior is also falling off, Freeze Mage has come back, I've heard.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Also hard counters, Freeze Mage. So with Ramp Druid, with Oil Rogue at the top, because it's got all the tempo cards and such, I guess Ramp Druid's fallen off. That makes sense. So mid-range being good with the Force of Nature Savage Roar combo.
Wait, so you're saying mid-range? This version of mid-range does run the combo?
That's what it seems like. Yeah,
okay,
that's what I say.
Okay.
There is. It's the finisher. It's like it's like the one I run has one set of the combo. So you're very intent on using it as a finisher. It's really hard to win games without the combo. The one with like two is, I guess, sort of pushing like a higher curve, but it's still pretty good. It's like you use it for a lot more board control.
Last time you said you probably changed it, but last time you said you're running one Force of Nature, two Savage Roar, right?
Yeah, I feel it changes based on how many games I lose.
No, that's understandable. And so at 5, super happy about this because I've been playing it and it's so fun. Aggro Mech Shaman in the house. It's tier 1. It's confirmed, and I'm so happy.
Fire Drink is alive and well.
Yeah,
it's just so disgusting. Like the burst potential
so
is.
Oh yeah, the burst is ridiculous. I've done 16 damage with a Doomhammer, double Rockbiter, was it?
Mm.
Yeah, double Rockbiter, Doomhammer, 16 damage to the face, won a game. Just out of
You, you watched me get you watched me get spanked before the
I
show.
watched the last play.
That's all you really needed to see. That sort of like summed up the game. Was like, yeah. Okay. So the thing I replaced the second Savage Roar with was another shade, having 2 shades of Naxxramas, which is just really good because it's like hella sticky. There's no currently really good way to destroy it, particularly because paladins are dropping 1 equality sometimes, but control paladin might not. But yeah, there's less, I guess, non-targeted removal, which is fun.
So I've been trying to build Oil Rogue because it looks really, really, really fun. And I've been watching a lot of people play it, and I can't remember who it was, but one of the streamers I watched playing it was also running Shade of Naxxramas in Oil Rogue. I guess just because it's just like a one of like a really, really solid threat. And I really like that, actually.
I think it's because you can. Well, do they just use it as like a? I suppose it'd become a jack of all trades because it could be used to fight for tempo, or it can be legitimately ticking time bomb until you.
And that's what I've been seeing is as far as if you look at anyone's deck list right now and they say all right, how do you what's the matchup? When they kind of list, okay, this is what you do against Priest with this deck, yada yada yada. Against Rogue for the last week, it's been make sure you clear the board because it's not just about it's not completely just like what Miracle Rogue used to be, where it didn't matter if they didn't have anything on the board because they had the Leroy combo. They still need things on the board, but they don't need a lot on the board.
It's
one
much
minion
more fair.
I mean, one minion can make the difference between winning and losing a game. So
it's that burst that like it just has the ability to burst, and I think honestly that's what it looks like is winning a lot of games right now. Like the meta seems to be around burst kind of things. Like Mech Mage, like really, like honestly, Mech Mage Mech Mage isn't centered around bursting out, but with Antonitis and your spare parts, you have the ability to be really, really good to burst them down at the end of the game and tempo them out mid and early game with your creatures and get damage in where you need to. Oil Rogue, that's the whole point. You trade out a little bit, but most of the time you're just gonna OTK if you can, and like use double tinker, prep something like that, prep something one way or another, eviscerate and swing into the face with your creature and your weapon, and then Blade Flurry and win the game. And what else? Mech Shaman is also super bursty. Mid-range Druid with the Force of Nature Savage Roar combo is super bursty. So, and then the 2 control decks it looks like are in tier 1 right now is Control Pally and Freeze Mage. So, I know
I don't want to talk too much about Shaman because we're going to talk about it later. Deck of the week, but I am excited to see it. I'm excited to see this class back in the meta somewhere.
Yeah,
even if they're not top,
it exists again.
Yeah, because it's I don't know. Again, we've talked about this before. Everyone talks about it. I'm just glad to see more decks than pre-GVG. Seeing the same 2 or 3 decks. Yeah, please more. I'm still seeing Face Hunter and decks like that. I'm not seeing a lot more, as much of it, and I'm glad. It's not even like. So a lot of people have been talking about this. I don't think Face Hunter is just a mindless deck. You do have to think, and a little bit, not as much as some of these other decks, but I don't mind playing against it. It's when you play against it 7 games in a row.
Exactly. I don't just like I have written down before I got Hearthstone Tracker. I have written down in my notebook. Face Hunter, loss. Face Hunter, loss. Face Hunter, win. Face Hunter, loss. Ramp Druid. Oh, Face Hunter, loss. So,
but gosh, like it's good. It's always going to be existent in the meta, just because because of its like Face Hunter, like unlike Zoo, is I don't know. It just feels really quite sort of linear. You just deal the damage you have in your hand.
Right.
One of the things I tried in sort of the midweek this week was I played a bunch of Zoo because I was like, I'll update. I hadn't touched my Zoo deck since the Undertaker nerf, and I just sort of took it out, took your Undertakers out, and what did I put in? I put some good stuff in. I swear. I think I put another Lepidome and a couple of second Void Walker or something. Basically, I filled the gap.
Okay.
And it seemed to do really well. Like I had over 10 games, 1 6 lost 4. So that obviously not a huge sample size, but it just felt like I was quicker than the meta. I felt like I played a few mech mages, and it just felt like I had better trading potential, but they might have just had crappy starts. And that sort of leads me to believe that perhaps there's a place for the Divine Shield Zoo in this meta, because like you look at a bunch of decks are running a Neotron, and if you put in your Argent Squires, and even against Paladins, you're still going to, I think it might come up often enough, particularly because tier 1 decks where you got Mech Mage, Mech Shaman, both would run your Divine Shield.
Yeah,
so
Neutron.
maybe not enough.
And,
annoyed.
And with that, I'm hoping to see more. Where's it? Because you always hear, "Oh, that card's terrible," and then the meta changes. Like BGH. Remember, everyone said, "Oh, BGH is horrible," and this was months back. Now everybody's running it. Another card I want to see.
And Mind Control Tech.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I'm hoping Blood Knight makes it come back, because I think you're right. A lot of people are running a Neutron, and we're seeing a lot of Paladins.
Well, we were seeing that the Hobgoblin decks. Have you seen those?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
and
fun.
they would run Argent Squire and a Neutron and
the oozes.
Oozes, oozes and there was something
would
else.
still
There
lose.
was another guy with Divine Shield, but they would run that, and they would run Blood Knight. Okay, so I didn't get my Hobgoblin, and now my kind of shitty creatures with Divine Shield actually don't suck anymore because I have Blood Mage now.
Yeah.
That was like, I really like the Hobgoblin decks. I kind of wish they would have taken off, but unfortunately they were too dependent. Like, the cards in the deck were good, but they were best used. Like, you really could only win if you had Hobgoblin.
They're
or
not.
Blood Knight, I guess.
They're not. I still have one in that I play. It's not consistent, and people. I think part of it is now when they see it, they know what it is. Like, it's just a tail sign. Okay, it's a Hobgoblin deck. I gotta make sure I kill the Hobgoblin.
Right. And it's too easy to shut down.
It is way too easy to shut down.
It's fun as hell, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So we got basically tier 1. Tier 1's easy. I think the second week in every season is pretty much where everything kind of settles out. The first week you're going to see a lot of random things in tier 1. Like, I feel like if it's not tier 1, it's always at the top of tier 2 is Handlock at the beginning of the season, because everybody just plays that to get through sort of the earlier ranks, and even to play it in higher ranks. Like, it's not a bad deck, it's just not like amazing.
It's just sort of like really shitty against the current prevalence
Like,
of
it's a great
Oil
deck,
Rogue.
just not super good against the current meta. Like,
It's
like
aggro mech.
the Demon Control Warlock or whatever. I don't know why they called it Control. It was really kind of just a control-y mid-range. But that was cool. Like, it was a really cool deck. It just, I don't see why Magic Amy thought it was tier 1. Like, it was just played a lot, and it was really, really good to shit on people who were like, "Oh, what's going on? I'm playing Face Hunter and just trying to gain ranks." But
that's usually like a good reason to play a deck, is if some decks lose their luster after people start playing them, and that's sort of what happened a little bit with Mech Mage, is that everyone was playing Mech Mage, so everyone started countering Mech Mage, and everyone knew how Mech Mages ran, and thus it became easier to, I guess, play against. And Hamlocks just really sort of became like a phase out function of Oil Rogue, like crapping on it because of just being able to what I said before about the saps, and then Mech Mage, Antonitis, Fireball spam, get him down to the last 15. Control Pally had just turned all the giants into wieners. Mid-range Druid would sometimes just do what Druid does and explode on them. Aggro Mech Shaman is the same thing. You just explode from the hand. And Freeze Mage, well, everybody knows why Handlock loses to Freeze Mage, right? It's just because you get you can't do anything for 7 turns, and then they Alex Strauser and just shit on you with Fireball, Frostbolt, Ice Lance. You're dead, son. And that's I guess the TLDR is Handlock gets crapped on by all the decks in tier 1, and that's why it's tier 2.
Great
So
deck kind of gets shit on by the meta.
Well, yeah, just that's why it's tier 2. It's still going to be a deck, and it's still it's a good deck, just not good in this meta.
Yeah.
I've been
Don't dust your giants.
Yeah,
No.
don't dust your giants. Well, maybe. Giants.
Yeah, if you want to stop being a douche and stop playing the friggin' Handlock deck.
Hey, I
Go
like
ahead,
Handlock.
No, I don't actually hate Handlock. I wouldn't dare.
It was a great opener over around the GVG, like a couple months either side. It was a great opener for like tournaments where you can where the blind pick is really important, because if you can cheese a game or two, then you can snowball the series, win the series. So people play like Handlock or like Druid, things that are good against a lot of things. So that's what you wanted, and that's, I guess, where the latest format for the World Championship format.
Nice segue, by the way.
I was just like, I could feel it coming. I was just like, this is gonna sound professional,
right?
But yeah.
So
Conquest.
Yeah. So Blizzard's they've announced a format change for the World Championship series. Matt, do you want to go ahead and talk about that?
Sure.
You got the details?
So the idea behind Conquest is obviously in the Blizzard format it'll be best of 5. First player to win 3 games is the winner. Obviously you have unique decks, one of your selected classes, but the difference between, I guess, sort of what they refer to as King of the Hill, where winner's deck plays on and the losing deck gets switched out. In this case, a player, when you win the game, you have to change your deck, and then the loser of that game can decide to either keep the deck they just lost with or change to another deck.
That's
what it ends up being is the winner has to beat the loser with all 3 of their decks. So you have to win a game with each one of your decks, which is it's a really cool format.
Yeah, I like it.
That's really cool.
You can't just sweep with, like what's been happening recently. You can't just sweep with Mech Major, sweep with a Druid. I really think it shows the better player. I mean, that's my opinion anyway. It
sort of like favors different things, I guess. So King of the Hill was very sort of people who could predict what was going to happen, like predict one thing that Firebat was credited with, and one of his I guess best stats is he claimed that he could predict the opening class of his opponent like 70% of the time, and then others would go in, with a counter and would be right enough time to, win the World Championship, as it would seem. And so this sort of that, and then from there it would reward King of the Hill would be like, counter. It's all about bringing counters, bringing enough decks to counter most of the meta. So if you can counter everything with your decks, then in theory you'll win, because with the ban, and you should be good. But whereas Conquest favors more well-rounded play. You have to be really good at all decks that can, in theory, take on everything, because bringing counter decks becomes less effective, because you can't. Your rogue deck might have to be able to beat a Druid, as opposed to just being built to, say, beat Zoo or something. That's so there's gonna be less specified cards in the decks, and there'll be more like generalized cards. So like something like Black Knight would probably be seen in a lot, I think. But
yeah. I guess more tech and less. I don't know.
I think it's actually less tech, because you have less room to play against. Like, so tech is, I think, I don't know. It's more like, I guess, a different kind of tech. I suppose like something like mind control mind control tech in Druid would be an example of I think a tech that would probably stay in the Conquest format, because at some point there's a decent chance that you'll be playing against 4 opponent minions, and that'd be good. Something that what's I'm trying to think of something that would be bad and thus wouldn't be used in say a tech deck. Something like, say, Kazan Mystic is something that you would bring in. Something you would bring in King of the Hill, because you just, if they play Freeze Mage or Hunting or something, and then you would, play your deck with Kazan Mystic in it to counter the secrets. Whereas in Conquest, it becomes less viable because you're going to have to win with a deck with Kazan Mystic, potentially against decks that won't have secrets in them. So the long-winded way of explaining it, I guess. So yeah, Conquest, your decks have to be more versatile in Conquest, I think.
I think it's better, because it rewards people for not playing just all counters. Everybody's going to be playing the counter to this, so I have to counter their counter. Well, yo, dog, I heard you're going to counter this counter, so I countered your counter, so you can't counter my counter, bruh. So I like seeing a format of fair decks. I think it would be much more fun to watch, Oil Rogue go up against Mech Mage, or Mech Mage up against Mech Shaman, or Mech Shaman up against Midrange Druid, than like a whole thing of Control Warrior versus Freeze Mage, and Freeze Mage versus Control Paladin. Which I'm not saying that's what it was, but I would like to see the previous versus the latter or so.
I was always a big fan of that whole system of the counter system, because it seemed pretty logical to me. Whoever wins, but then it sort of favors whoever wins the blind pick. But even then,
it's not a bad thing. I would just rather see a lot more fair decks. I think it would just be more fun to watch.
The other thing about fair decks in this is there's no ban. So
I was going to ask you that. So there is no ban. It's 5 decks.
No ban,
right?
It's 3 decks.
3 decks. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's it's a little. I was a little bit confused with that. So yeah, they're only bringing 3 decks. Yeah, they're only bringing 3 decks because you can't get banned out.
Okay.
Which is interesting. I don't know. Bringing 5 decks always seemed a bit hard, at least for me. I think I can manage 3. 3 sounds like a manageable number.
And Brian Kibler was talking about that in an article recently. Where it's kind of, well, I mean, when he first got into the scene, he did pretty well in the first tournament he went into, and it was one of those things where he showed up, and I think he said he had 2 decks, but he had to bring in 3. So he's like, oh crap! So he just kind of net decked something he'd never played before, and it done pretty well. And then, if I remember even more correctly, he went further up, and now you got to bring this many decks. So he's like, well, crap! I only brought 2. Whereas he's used to what he was saying was in the Magic world, where he just played basically 1 deck, or that's what he prepared for.
Yeah, you'll have a standard deck, a modern deck, and a legacy deck, depending on what event you go to.
And I mean, again, some people I know are going to complain, oh, talk about Magic, this is Hearthstone. They're card games, but they are different. I get it. It's, I don't know. I don't know. We're, kind of a spoilers. We're going to, in the future, DRC is going to put on some tournaments, monthly tournaments. So I know, spoilers.
Dun, dun, dun.
And we're going to be doing a little bit different of format. I'm not going to go into details now. We're still working it out, but I'm excited to see more format changes. I think I'm more with Tom on this. I like the change. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with how the format's been run, but I don't know. I kind of like seeing this more because it's not you don't see the sweeps. I don't know. I think it's more fun to watch. I don't know if it's more fair for the players, but I don't really care about the players. No, I'm kidding.
Screw those guys.
Right.
They don't even do anything. I just want to watch.
But yeah, it's a really nice way to do a different format. I think it's pretty airtight. It sort of rewards, different things. But it seems fair. The only thing that's a little bit it's been talked about, like mind games it becomes a lot more prevalent in this because of the fact that in theory the first two games there's a lot more, I guess, blind pick in this, or double blind pick, because the loser of the game has the choice to keep the deck or change. Like one of the things I did last year in a tournament was you had the same option. If you lost, you could change decks, or you can keep it on. And this was like the heyday of Zoo, and I just kept playing Zoo because I was like, no, I can do this, I can win. So that's kind of nice when if you think you get a little bit cheesed and they just get lucky and roll 8 on a crackle or something like that, or just roll high.
Do you
you have no.
Do you think do you think we have, well, let's ask this, do you think there are enough decks? Because I know tournament decks are different than what you'll play in the meta, because you can't just pull a tournament deck off of, watching a stream or a tournament and play it and expect it to be good in the meta. But, there are decks out there, Ramp Druid, Mech Mage, but, some of those decks, they'll just throw in some tech cards to play around other people's decks. Do you think there are enough cards or decks in the quote meta to so it leads to somewhere like sort of bluffing, I guess, if you will. If you win a game, you got to change. Do you think there's any way that mind game is kind of played by the players where, well, this person's, I know what decks they have, he's probably gonna play this next, and maybe play something different, or okay, it's a rogue, but I expect it to be this, and it's not this. It's actually something completely different. Do you think it's kind of the opposite of what it is now, where it's just counter to counter to counter?
I think, yeah, but so that bluffing is definitely something that there's definitely more room to bluff or be bluffed in this format.
That's what I think too. Yeah,
because you can, there's so many levels of, particularly from the loser side of, oh my god, does he think I'm going to bring warrior, or am I going to? He thinks I'm going to bring warrior, so I should bring paladin, or maybe he thinks I'm going to, or maybe he knows that, so I'm going to bring warrior because he expects me to think that warrior is the good deck, so I'll bring paladin. So in theory, he'll counter the paladin. So if I bring the warrior, it'll be good. But then what you select the warrior, and it just goes back to that first level of thinking. It's like, oh shit, he knew I was going to bring warrior, I should have brought paladin, sort of thing. I don't know. It's very sort of results oriented bluffing, I guess. It particularly because it's so so the maximum you could be bluffing is between 3 decks, I guess. And those bluffing is based on your opponent's 2 other choices. So you're right, there is definitely more room to bluff, but it'll be interesting. I don't think there's a huge amount to it.
I guess it's kind of one of those things where, you can kind of think about it, but until we actually see people play this format, I don't really know what to expect. And it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it'll be good because what will happen is, unlike times gone by, as you said, no more sweeps, because you'll have to, you can sweep them,
sure,
but it won't be with the same deck.
Right.
You have to win with all your decks, which is cool. Like, there are some very explosive decks, like Zoo. Sometimes you just, roll Jin and you just win because you get a better start.
Yeah.
And that's obviously it's much harder to do in this format because getting, the God opening over 3 different kinds of decks is a little bit harder to do, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's a little bit going to happen a lot less likely. Yeah. Statistically speaking, but we all.
It's going to be more fun to watch for sure, because, watching Mech Mage 9 games in a row isn't a lot of fun.
It gets a little boring.
It gets a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, he got it again. He's going to win this game. We know what's going to happen. I think this is sort of like it falls into Blizzard's plan of not knowing the outcome. I think that's one of the things, I guess, over to make a comparison to League of Legends is somewhere, I guess, sort of last year, how the games are going to play out. You can you've seen it all before. And I guess this sort of changes and particularly with a lot of the thought behind GVG is to escape those situations where how the game's going to play out. How this series is going to play out because you can see it. But like having 3 different decks that need to be played, it's gonna be a good year. It's gonna be a good year, and particularly the other part of the World Championship thing. Actually, do you guys have anything more to say on Conquest? What else?
I don't think so, Tom.
I'm less informed. Very very much obviously less informed than you are. So I think it's interesting, but continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the second bit of, I guess, the World Championship changes is the point system, which is for anyone who was trying to get into the World Championship last year knew that you had to make top 16. And in the last couple of days of ladder, it was just, it's hectic. Like, you watch streams and people are just dropping and gaining and stuff like that. And there'll be people who get to rank 3 think they have a good elo and not play because they don't want to ruin it. And then, come back the next day and they're 17th and just want to hang themselves. The point structure is, so it rewards, it's based around the top 100. So 51st place to 100th place on each ladder will receive 1 championship point. 21st to 50th will receive 10. 11th to 20th will receive 30. 2nd to 10th will receive 40. And first place each season will receive 50 championship points. In order to participate in the last call tournament this year, you'll need to earn a minimum of 2 points. Whereas last year, I'm pretty sure it was if you made Legend, you could participate in the last call tournament. So you could, grind Zoo for a month, and next minute you're at the World Championships playing against Firebat. That's that. But yeah, so this is, I guess, a lot more versatile. But there's still that sort of problem of, I guess, top 50 is where the points start to get good because, top 51st to 100 is only 1 point, and then as soon as you get 50th, you get 10 points. So you get 10 times the amount. So, but it's I guess the idea is it's still going to have the same problem as the top 16 format, but you can't really get away from that. Whatever number of people you decide to give points to, there's always going to be a cluster of shifting around at this with this point structure at all levels, I would assume, but particularly around the 100. So people who are 103 to 97 it'll be an all-out war basically for those last couple of days. I guess it also feels like the last call tournament is a little more exclusive this year because anyone who can, like, Legend is not hard to make. It's just really, if you want to do it, you can do it. And it's been, you can do it with a 51% win ratio. You just have to put in the time and play the volume of games you need to, and eventually, the idea is eventually you'll hit a streak that'll get you to Legend.
Well, so Legend, I wouldn't say Legend isn't hard to get. In my opinion, I think it is slightly difficult to get, but I would say you have to try very hard to do it. Like it's not. I don't like it when people say, "Oh, it's not hard to do whatever." Like, it's not hard to ride a bike, but like if you can, ride a bike, you know how to ride a bike, and more, you know how to do something that not a lot of people know how to do. Like 0.5% of the player base is in Legend. So when you say it's not hard to do, you're doing something that 99.5% of the population can't do, or rather isn't in. So I don't want to, like, I know what you're saying, and I don't want to discredit you, but I don't want people to feel like, well, what's the point of Legend, right? I hit Legend, so big whoop. Now I have to be Legend top 100. Oh, so I hit top 100. Oh, big whoop. Now I have to be top 16 or whatever. Like, it's not like, it is very capable, I think, is a better phrasing for that. Maybe I'm just trying to save my own ass here because I haven't.
I think you're right. I think to some extent, because who hit Legend first this month? Was it Zixo?
Probably. There's like Zixo did really well, and then like RDU was pretty up there, like fighting with the beach.
Well, I forgot who it was. I'll say it's Zixo, and I'm sure I'll get comments saying I was wrong. he did it in 24 hours, I think. What I heard, but he played for 24 hours straight, like just nothing but Mech Mage. So I think that's to credit him because he's skilled.
Yeah.
And
and a degenerate, apparently. 24 hours of grind.
I know.
That is ridiculous.
That's brutal. But I mean, you talk about that. You know, we all were busy this month, or this week rather.
I played more Magic than I did Hearthstone.
Oh, you.
I'm sorry. I went back home.
You filthy casual.
I had to levy a couple taxes from my friends. Like I let one of my friends borrow a deck, and I got it back, and I was like, man, this would be such a good deck if I had this card.
Yeah.
And they had it up at the game store that I was at, and I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'll get it, and I'll get these cards. It's like $20 to finish out my deck, and so I finished out my deck. It's blue-white heroic for anybody who gives a shit. It's a really cheap deck. And then like right after I did that, a buddy of mine who came over to the store was like, "You here for the tournament today?" And I was like, "There's a tournament today?" And I was like, or he was like, "Yeah, it's Star City Games like." Free thing, you get a couple packs, and if you get top 8, you get a token thing, and like if you get top 2, you get a little badge. I was like, nah. And then within the next 4 hours, I was getting shit stomped by Mono Red in a tournament. Actually, I did pretty well. I went 3-1.
Mono Red rush. Was it a rush deck?
Yeah, it's Face Hunter basically. I hate Mono Red to death. Like I don't even like playing it because it's one of those decks where it's like if you if you don't win by turn 5, turn 6, you probably 90% of the time you lose. Cuz it's I'm going to hit you with really really small, quick and efficient creatures in the beginning of the game and then try and burn you out with my burn spells, and if that doesn't work, well shit.
I worry with this game.
I just got the shittiest of draws, and it's not the greatest of matchups. But then again, then I got to say I did pretty well afterwards because I went up against red, white, black aggro and destroyed it, and then 2 other decks that were really expensive and destroyed those, and I'm like, lol, got a $40 deck and shitting on your $300 decks. So good.
Yeah. Well, so what was that? That was 4. This sounds like it was 4-round Swiss. Yeah,
it was 4-round Swiss. We didn't do a top 8. We just split because it was like 11 o'clock when we finished. Everybody was like, yeah, we're not going to split. We'll just do whatever. And being the good-willed person I am, I did not get more Magic cards after the end. So I just got
Hearthstone cards, right? Hearthstone cards?
I wish. They didn't allow me to get Hearthstone cards, but they did get store credit. And I'm a really really big fan of Catan. And they had Catan Cities and Knights expansion, and so I used part of my credit, and a buddy of mine lent me a couple bucks because I didn't want to pay the whole thing. He was just like, here, just take it and pay me back sometime in the future.
Catan, you hipster.
Oh, dude, have you played Catan?
Oh, I love Catan.
Dude, it's the best. I like Catan probably more than food sometimes.
Sometimes.
It's so good.
At least it's sometimes.
Once upon a time, this was a Hearthstone podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my god. The first time I played Catan, I was like, all right, this is okay. And then I played another game right after the first game I played, and then I won, and I felt this sort of heroin going through my veins. I was like, yep, this is an addiction now. And so I'm a professional Catan player.
Well, Catan rant. Here's your Catan rant of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners are like, oh, you're about to tell us all your secrets about how to hit legend. And then now we're talking about Catan.
Pull the wool over their eyes. Yeah. No one's gonna learn.
Well, I want to ask
today.
I want to ask Matt about this because he's the only one of us that have hit it so far. But we've talked about this, Matt. You and me. I pushed quote really hard 1 month, several months back, and hit the the rank 5 wall where it's you stop getting the bonuses for winning, and it's just such a grind. And I didn't have the time to do it. And well, maybe a little bit of the want to do it. That wall is so hard. But I mean, you've hit legend. I mean, what do you have any tips? I mean, as we talk about this,
that one time I hit legend, I know everything now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
listeners out there like this guy is crap. He didn't want his one credit. But no, it's you're very right. It's like you hit that rank. This is exactly what happened. Yeah, you hit rank 5 and it's legitimately a wall. If you think about the way I like to think about it is there are two halves to like legend. There's everything up to rank 5 and there's rank 5 to legend. The first time you do it and probably subsequent times it's taken me at least the same amount is so the amount of games you play from wherever you start the season to rank 5 is roughly the same amount of games it's going to take you to go from rank 5 to legend. And yeah, it's really when you need to buckle down and play. But one of the tips that I tell people who are like, oh my god, you hit legend one time, you're the best. It's like, thank you. Just bow to me. Anyway, is to play to rank 5 early in the season. So like first week or two of the season, because you'll hit that wall and you'll be like, and maybe lose a couple of games and get demoted to rank 6 and be like, I hate my life. I hate this game. Screw getting legend. So basically get as far as you can as quick as you can.
Exact words, actually. I got to rank 6
exactly.
last season and cried.
That's what you want to do, is not leave it all until the last week, because you will burn out and you will not hit legend. You need to get through, if you can get to, basically your aim should be, particularly if you're a casual player like us, filthy casuals. So if you start playing on the 1st, and by sort of like the 10th to the 14th, if you can be pretty close, sitting around like rank 8 to rank 5, it'll counteract this sort of like mid-month, I guess this mid-month sort of complacency where you're like, yeah, good enough, I'll hit legend later, is if you can get as high as you can early, it makes the work you need to do easier. Because you still, if you think about, say it takes you, like 100 games to get to rank 5, it's going to take you another 100 games to get to legend at least, probably more. I think I played close to, I can probably find it, what was it? It's like all time. It's like, I just searched through my history and there's like this massive streak of Warlock, and it's just, it's ridiculous. It's good. I think it was like, it must have been close to, it would have been over 200 games. Basically, there was a lot of games played. So yeah, and that's why people are always like, why Zoo and Face Hunter played so much, is because, particularly if you don't have a lot of time to sit around and play Hearthstone, if Zoo and Face Hunter roughly have like, when they win the games, they'll be like, 3-4 minute games. So you're getting instantly many more games in. I think at one stage I worked it out, it was like 4-1 on, say, something like Control Warrior. So you play 4 games in the amount of time you would play one game as Control Warrior. So if from a time efficiency standpoint, playing these quick aggro decks is good, because, as you said, with those magic decks, if you don't win by sort of turn 6-7, it's basically over. And that's the same thing with Zoo and Face Hunter, is like, if you don't not pushing to win really early, then you're probably going to lose, because these other decks are going to come into where they're strong. So particularly if you don't have a lot of time and you want to hit legend, you will have to play aggro deck. I'm sorry. If that hurts you, then that's all right.
Well,
but
And I've heard the counter argument to that, and I think this more sticks maybe to rank 5 to legend, where it's kind of, you could play aggro, play 4 aggro games in the time that you play one control game, but it's kind of more about your win rate. And I'm more leaning to your side, Mushu, like, because you can get those bonus wins. So if you get a bunch of games in a row faster than you get more games one in a row with a control deck, you're going to get more bonus stars. So I definitely think up until rank 5. Well, again, I'd have to look at numbers, but I'm theory crafting that percentage would be higher that you get if you get more wins. But do you think from rank 5 to legend it matters at all? Because you don't get those wins. Yeah. Because at that point, is it just about win rates then? Because if again, like you said, you play 4 games, if you lose 2 and win 2, you're at the same place you were at with Control Warrior or something like that.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. It's like, am I a one-trick pony? Because I basically went from where I started to legend with Zoo, and I was like, oh holy crap, am I just a one-trick? Can I only play Zoo? Am I any good at this game at all? And the thing is, what people would like to do is go from their rank. I think Trump's quoted as saying, he's like, oh, I'll climb with Zoo to rank 5 and then play like Rogue or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good, but like particularly this is like to all the people who haven't done it and want to do it, is when you play, because you'll most likely be grinding the same deck, is by the time you get to that rank 5, you're probably already really good at that one deck you're playing, that it's worth to keep going. Like my original plan was to Zoo until rank 5 or 4 and then play like Druid or Handlock, something that was slower. And yeah, as you say, you think something you have a win rate over. But what happens with the aggro decks is you become better, obviously, by playing a lot more. But what the difference is in aggro decks, particularly in Zoo, that's what I have all my experience in, is all these big decisions that you quote unquote don't have to make, is the popular opinion, because it's mindless and you're just going phase. It's all about these little interactions in the first sort of 2-3 turns. Like, so all your decisions are like, do I trade with this minion? Do I coin this out, sort of thing? And that's where switching to a ramp druid or something to rank 5 to legend isn't as good as it sounds, because you don't have as much experience on it as you have gained by playing Zoo all the way rank 5. It's like it's naive to think that you will have a better win rate on a slower deck, because it's not like slower decks aren't necessarily better, is what I'm saying. Is
okay,
like don't yeah. So you might think that you have a better win rate, but like this is why I'm a very big advocate of using things like Hearthstone Tracker, because it gives you that perspective rather than what you think happened. So basically, keep playing your aggro deck until you hit Legend, and then faff about with whatever deck in Legend you want to do, because that's really where you will get good, is where you play, say you pull out your ramp druid deck when you get to Legend, you're playing against other Legend players. So if you want to get better at it, that is the time to do it. But I think as far as business goes of getting to Legend, you really want to do it as quick as possible, and particularly for the first time. My experience was just play a quick deck, because you get the volume is what matters, particularly for your first time. Is volume of game matters the most. It's possibly like so win rate doesn't matter as much because you're putting in more volume. Obviously, like at some point the win rate does matter, but it matters less when you're playing an aggro, because you, as I said, 4-1, you're playing 4 more games.
So yeah, is your thought then with Face Hunter? I mean, again, I don't like Face Hunter, and I won't say it's just mindless, but you do have some decisions to make, and I think those decisions are simple that you do in any deck. Do I trade here or do I go face? I'm sorry. Any deck you play, you're going to make that decision. But I'll say that Face Hunter Zoo. Do you feel like the decisions that you have to make, the advantage is you get to make those decisions sooner in the game, maybe before your opponent has to make any decisions? Does that give you an advantage?
In the game or overall? Like overall in climbing, or
overall in climbing, yeah.
Well, so the thing about playing those aggro decks is the skill curve is like the same. It's 4 times faster, because as you said, you're making those decisions really early on, and because you're playing 4-1, 4 times more games, you are being faced with those decisions much more often. So you get better a lot quicker, is what I'm saying. It's so you get really, like, I got really, really good about, like, I would play against a lot of Face Hunter and stuff on my clan with Zoo, and the popular belief was Zoo was like second best to the Hunter deck, but sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I guess but yeah, basically I never felt like I was going to lose to a Hunter deck when playing Zoo, because I knew those early trades like the back of my hand.
Okay.
So yeah, the skill curve on aggro decks is smaller because of the time efficiency. It's basically aggro decks are efficient in terms of learning and climbing.
That I agree 100% with. That makes complete sense. I mean, especially if you have those decisions to make early, your opponent has less mana to deal with those decisions that you make too. I think that's a big advantage too.
And it's really easy to know when you've lost with an aggro deck.
That's true too.
It's like if it's a turn 5 and he's got 2 minions and you have no minions, and it's pretty safe to say you're cooked, you're done, concede and move on.
It's not like turn 20 priest. Oh, I just need to top deck, XYZ, and I can win. If I don't top deck it, I lose. But there goes half an hour. And I say that I'm a control player. I like the longer games. I just aggro. I mean, I'll play them every now and then, but I just prefer the control games. I don't know. That's just my personal preference. I know everyone's different.
I like playing control in Magic, but I haven't had the chance to play it much in Hearthstone. I would imagine it's pretty fun, but
money barrier.
Huh?
With the money barrier.
Oh yeah. I literally actually just put $10 into this, and I
saw you crafted something.
Skin, which I'm probably gonna ditch. I don't know. Trying to make that oil rogue, man. Got to get those preps. But I have been playing like a lot of Face Hunter and a lot of aggro lock. Like the first real deck I had was the Zoolock deck, and it got me. Cause see, like I was like rank 18, I guess. It got me from rank 18 to rank 12 in like a day. It was super great. Games were super quick. It was not a difficult deck to play. Like it was fun and it took thought, but it wasn't difficult, and it was easy to learn. And I think my favorite part about it is that it was actually like it felt like it was a good deck. Like I felt like I had a chance against decks, whereas like beforehand I was playing. What was I playing? Like some really weird, janky control mage that was like with spell power and had 2 pyroblasts in me. It was so sad. So yeah, I ran that and then picked up Face Hunter to climb ladder again, and then I got with Face Hunter I got up to like rank 8 or so, and then I figured out about mid-range Hunter, and then I started playing mid-range Hunter, and the meta it was just so much better, and I enjoyed it, and it was really fun. And then I got to rank 6 with that. And I just realized, control is just... I kind of fell off of the whole, like, I have to play control kind of thing, because that was my mindset in Magic. Like, I had to play control. I had to be able to beat the decks. But... I don't know. Like, I find that the mid-range decks are more fun. Like, the legitimate mid-range decks. Like, there are a lot of decks that are supposed to be aggro but are kind of mid-rangey, like Mech Mage, in my opinion, is a total mid-range deck.
I think they're more mid-range than aggro.
Yeah. And it's hard because we don't have a lot of cards. We don't have a lot of cards to choose from in Hearthstone, and more of the cards in Hearthstone are bigger than, say, the cards in Magic. Like, 1-drops mean significantly less in Hearthstone than they do in Magic. Which isn't to say that they're not good. It's just that, like...
Do you think it's because we're guaranteed mana, whereas opposed to Magic, you may not pull land?
Actually, I would say that is definitely something that contributes to it. Removal is also much more prevalent in Hearthstone than it is in Magic.
Yeah.
Creatures stick around for longer in Magic for the most part, and honestly, any creatures can be removal spells is the thing. So like in Magic, you can choose to not block with your creatures, right? But in Hearthstone, they can take their little dinky 2/1 wiener and then throw it right into your what is PGH? PGH is a 4-drop, 3-drop?
3-drop.
3-drop.
Yeah, they can trade a 1-drop into a 3-drop easy. And like Fire Blast, the Mage Hero Power can clear up, like, for 2 mana, not even using a card, for 2 mana can clear a 1-drop and sometimes a 2-drop. Removal is just more prevalent, and it makes creatures more... I don't want to say they're less significant, because they really aren't. Like, creatures are running this game right now, in my opinion. As opposed to Magic, but
Yeah, I definitely think
I'm in that wall where I'm trying to figure words out real quick.
words are hard.
What are words?
Words, reasons, such.
Reasons because reasons.
I don't know. It's just if there was a deck that was primarily spells, like how in Magic you run like a control deck in Magic would be about 2/5 lands, I would say, so like 25 lands or so minimum for a control deck. You run that, and then like the like 40 spells, and then like 5 creatures, or like some planeswalkers or whatever. Like the control decks in Hearthstone or in Magic go like way longer game time wise, because they're a little more attrition based. They want to make sure they have pummeled you into the ground with all of their removal before they start playing their big win conditions, like Elspeth and Pearl Lake Ancient right now is what is huge. So
I think coming back to what you were talking about originally with the aggro and climbing and finding what you like to play, is aggro decks coincidentally also quite cheap, because in Zoo, or traditional Zoo, the most expensive thing was the Doom Guards, and in Hunter you look at it, and like back in the heyday of Leroy, that was the legendary, that was expensive. But yeah, Zoo, the most expensive thing is back when obviously when it ran Leroy would have been, but Doom Guards are rare, so you can build really, and it's the same in Magic, isn't it? The aggro decks are really cheap to build, aren't they?
Yeah, actually, for the most part, like obviously, like depends on what format we're talking about, and it depends on what colors. But for the most part, like mono red, really cheap and easy to build, but it has like one purpose. You're running your shit into the face, and you gotta hope you win.
Attack the face.
It is. It's Face Hunter basically is what it is. And then the deck I'm running is Blue White Heroic, which is, honestly, I can't even like relate it to Hearthstone. It's really weird, but it's a really cheap aggro deck that's like, I have kind of dinky creatures and I run a bunch of protection spells that I target them and they get bigger, and it's funny because you can't do anything. I love it to death. And then there's like hexproof decks, which are inherently like they're like really cheap, except for that one card that's really expensive. And the more colors you go into, automatically, the more colors you go into when you make a deck, the more expensive it's going to be, because you need to get the special lands to increase your consistency.
Right.
All about the lands.
Oh,
no
trouble
trouble.
lands.
No trouble.
Oh, I get it. Nice. Oh, well played, Mushu. Well played.
What? I kind of hope someday Hearthstone integrates a utility land kind of thing, because
like wild growth.
No. Like so that would be kind of like mana ramp. In Magic, there are lands, like you have the basic lands like island, forest, mountain, swamp, plains. You have those, and then you have like a bunch of different types of dual lands. Like there's the original dual lands that are like super expensive, that are like they count as an island and a plains, and they tap for blue and white. And
so
always
like
you bring them down, and they can tap, like whenever you tap them, they can tap for whatever, no drawback. And they printed those in the beginning of the game and were like, oh, hey, these are ridiculously overpowered. We're just going to have them in Vintage and Legacy. And then they have the shock lands, which are the exact same thing, except when they come into play, if you want them to come in untapped, you have to pay 2 life. So you have to shock yourself to it. And then there's like filter land for really fast. But the thing I want to see.
Yeah, how would that work with Hearthstone?
So yeah,
there
are things called utility. There are things called utility lands in Magic, which most of the time don't even tap for mana. They're there for like just special random like dinky effects.
You mean like Wisp, which is overpowered, right?
Zero
mana 1/1.
Actually, like I kind of want to quit because I don't even have my playset of that, and it's just overpowered. Don't even get me started on Target Dummy. But so the utility lands in Magic, they usually so they're colorless, and they don't usually tap for colored mana, but they have special effects. So like they're cards you play for no cost. They don't have a cost. That's what lands are cool for. So you play them, and they have some sort of effect. Like Mazavith is a land, you play a land, and it says, you play this guy, and it says tap it, remove a creature from combat. So you basically, like, if you're playing up against, for example, a hexproof deck where they make one really, really big creature and make it so that you can't kill it, and they swing with that one creature, and you tap Mazavith and say that's not in combat anymore. All of their damage is null. Like you can't be hurt by that. And then there's like I'm probably gonna butcher this, but it's like the Temple of Alexandria or something like that, or the Church of Alexandria or something like that. And it's like on your upkeep, draw an extra card or something like that, or tap this, draw an extra card. It doesn't untap during your untap step or something weird like that.
So would this be a card? Like I'm thinking Hearthstone, or would it be like a
it
hero
would be
power?
One of those things that you would get it, and you wouldn't play it for mana, but there would be some, or it wouldn't cost mana, but there would be some sort of drawback. Like if you play a utility land, you can't play a land that turn. Because you can only play one land each turn unless you have a card that says play extra lands this turn or something like that.
Do you feel like
I
spare
think it would
parts?
be something that would be really interesting to. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
But I think it would be something that is possible, and it's not like you don't have to make these things do like really, really, really crazy, really crazy effects. Like I feel like something that would be cool is. I'm trying to figure out how to make this work, and it's just me fantasizing and trying to make Hearthstone more like Magic because I love Magic to death.
Do you feel
I think it's possible, plausible, maybe not, possible, definitely.
Do you feel like spare parts fit that niche though? Is that kind of what you're
actually,
getting at?
yeah, kind of a little bit.
Do we need more spare parts? I mean, could we have more spare parts?
Hells yeah, I would be totally down for more spare part-esque things. That's one of my favorite mechanics. Like when I first saw it, I was like, this is stupid. this is the dumbest mechanic they've come out with, and then I started to appreciate it more and realize the synergies it has with a lot of
it's
the cards.
so many, especially when you can taunt your opponent's minion and then Black Knight it. That's awesome. The only downside I think was basically requiring the Gadgetzan Auctioneer to be nerfed. That was a little unfortunate. I think we're missing some decks in the meta because of that. I don't know. I'm kind of bummed. It would just be overpowered to play Gadget and then just spare parts.
The only thing about my fantasy rant about utility lands is because when the deck I play in Legacy is called Lands, and it runs 40 some odd lands, and it's a control deck, and half the lands are utility lands, and they all do really, really awesome weird things. It's again my fantasy of trying to bring Hearthstone more like Magic.
What happened? It's like there's back to the one thing I wanted to say was back to the wisp pun thing was I only just realized that the Dark Whispers card is actually spelled wisp, like the card, like WISP. So the card is a pun, and the flavor text reads, "Don't worry, we fired the person who named this card." So summoning wisps is
sure enough. Yeah, you're right.
So that's all I wanted to say was dual lands, but Dark Whispers is a pun card. I mean, this is why Hearthstone's more simple. Instead of talking about talking about different kinds of lands, we just make puns about cards.
Amazing cards, wisps.
Yes, wisps.
Well, listeners, if there's ever any time that you want rants, you can find them here. So you will not be disappointed ever.
It's all right. It's all right if you tune out.
No, it's not okay. Don't you give them a free pass. The listeners.
No, you're right. Everything
late.
Tom says is required to be listened to, and there will be a test on it at the end of this podcast.
There is. We're going to do giveaways, and I think that will be a requirement.
Oh my God. That's excellent.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I
the secret answer in Tom's rant, and ready.
Here's the thing. I'm going to make this hard work. So we're not going to start giveaways this month. I think it's going to be next month.
When people start listening to the podcast.
Oh, no. They're going to, because they need to start knowing, kind of where it begins and when they really need to start taking notes when they listen. So I was just gonna do all right. If you sign up, if you tweet, whatever it is, put on the list. No. We're gonna have questions. They will be tested, and those dedicated, those in the crew, will have the chance to win prizes.
I think at some point what we need to do is a giveaway is give out a printed transcript of Tom's rant from that podcast, like word by word. I think that would be a fantastic gift.
I'm down.
Yeah. What do you think, Tom? I think
I would like to see kind of like a poster, like in like a kind of like a Uncle Sam format. Like I want you to stop playing Control Warrior. Like
yeah, we've just started memes. I think the Control Warrior one is my favorite already. It'll be hard to top the Control Warrior rant. It was excellent. It was my favorite part.
My tumblies that the tears of Control Warrior players can satisfy.
Every fiber in your body just tenses. Just Control Warrior. You must have been
Warrior, and now my anus is tense as hell.
Yes, you must be like so over the moon when Control Warrior, when Magic Amy heard your rant and was like, you know what, we'll drop Control Warrior to tier 2.
Oh,
it will be fantastic. He will.
Right here, DRC is affecting the meta. You heard it here first. Period.
The champion calls it how he sees it.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Things happen. Things happen.
Stupid shit.
I think you know people on the inside, Tom. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're ahead of the curve, and he's a connected young man.
I think I may be the second coming of Christ as it pertains to meta of Hearthstone.
Oh,
I think we can do this.
Is that
Is that good?
Yeah, blasphemy on DRC. Stay tuned for more blasphemy.
We hear a lot of things here first. Wow.
Absolutely.
It's third podcast. Best time for first.
Oh Lord, I know listeners are face palming right now. Perfect. Well, I guess that's it for the meta this week. Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
Needs more zoo.
Don't rant anymore. Is that okay? Can we do that?
We're limiting. I'm just gonna go ahead and say executive decision. One rant. We gotta keep it fresh because if you just start like saying, just mumbling about stuff, it's like, I hate Obama or something like that, and people are gonna.
Thanks, Obama.
I don't want to devalue your rants. They need to stay good. They need to stay wholesome, and by doing more than one per podcast, we dilute them. And we can't have that happen.
All right, we're gonna set a tally. On the overlay, I'm gonna make a tally, and as soon as we hit
Tom's rants.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit it, and it'll be like a big overlay, just pops up, just flashes or something. I'll make it.
Ding, rant of the day.
Yes.
Done.
All right, well, we'll be right back with Deck of the Week. DRC would like to thank Brainiacs for their support of this podcast. If you have a tech idea for improving your business's workflow, Brainiacs can provide a turnkey solution to specifically fit your needs. You can contact them at www.brainiux.com. All right, welcome back. This is Deck of the Week with Just Soup and Mushu. Guys, this week we're doing Mech Shaman. Last week before, we kind of talked about doing a shaman for Deck of the Week, and it was, we had some choice words because shaman was kind of at the bottom of the barrel. And now that's changed a little bit, and I'll go ahead and give it over to you, Mushu. What has changed and why? What have you noticed?
It's like, it's a little bit is an understatement. The gods at work, as they may be in the form of Firebat and Purple Drank. I feel like I talk about Firebat every podcast. It's just like, Firebat did this, Firebat did that.
He's one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, it's like
he's all right, I guess.
He plays well every now and then. They have managed to Purple Drank, and he crafted this amazing Mech Shaman. Taking, I guess, not even the best bits, like the staple cards of Shaman. Like, there's no Hex, there's no... well, commonly there's no, I guess, lightning storm, no earth shock, and I guess the idea is mechs in Shaman and just win the game like that. The idea is to it looks like it basically seems to be about trading for minions into a position where you can blow them up with like whirling Zap-O-Matic with Flame Tongue Totem Rockbiter combos, because that would hit for like that would not tickle that. Like, that's
14.
That's gonna hit you, yeah, and that's just like out of nowhere. Do we remember that? It's like anyway, but yeah. So Purple Drank played this to rank 1. Firebat, I think, played it to rank 2. And I think there was a Twitter post where he said stopped at rank 2 for my buddy or something, and not to take Purple Drank's rank 1. I think that's what it was in reference for.
So,
but yeah. Lots of fun.
What's in the deck? I mean, you don't have to necessarily name every card, but what do you think are the most important cards?
Well, so everyone's pretty familiar with everything that makes up a mech deck. So you know,
nobody runs Mech Warper.
Yeah, nobody.
It's so bad. Like that cards just don't even.
But yeah,
for those of you at home, that's a Kappa statement right there.
Yeah, that is what is called sarcasm.
So yeah, it's, you know, the usual suspects: Mech Warper, Neutron, Mech Yeti, Spider Tank, that sort of thing. And then I guess the cream of the crop, the Shaman Mech, the Whirling Zap-O-Matic, the 2 cost for 3 attack, 2 health is with Wind Fury. So Wind Fury is a very dangerous mechanic in this game, because it has a tendency to every now and then
it's
just shit
nuts.
on people.
That's one of your main one of the main pieces that allows you to burst really well in this deck. Because obviously you have Flame Tongue Totem and you have Rockbiter. I've actually noticed using Rockbiter still as kind of like a removal thing. That's what I had to use it as. Mostly.
Yeah.
But it also has the potential to burst.
Yeah, and with that burst potential comes 2 Power Maces, which is like no Power Mace is the 3 cost weapon for 3 attack, 2 durability with a Death Rattle. Give a random friendly mech plus 2/2. So obviously this feeds into the whole mech theme and becomes part of the whole, I guess, boost and ramping up to the win. I found, particularly my first couple of games, losing board control early is terrible. Like you can't basically come back. And one of the things I saw when I was sort of like watching some games that people play playing Mech Shaman was they'd play 1 Lightning Storm, because the idea was in the upper echelons where everyone was like, Firebat's a god, let's all just run his deck. And so you're queuing into Mech Shaman. Having the Lightning Storm helps you win the mirror, because you just like you basically kill their board and they're like, well, shit, GG.
So the reason why Firebat wasn't running Lightning Storm is because of the overload on it, which is really, really a big deal, and I'll get into that in a second. But the cards that do run overload in this deck, you have like a 2 of Crackle and a Lava Burst. I think Firebat was running 1 of. I have a run of just because I only have 1. I don't know if I'd run 2. But there's that for burn. So you have Crackle and Lava Burst, which are really good for either closing out games or good for removal. And then a Doomhammer, which also has Overload. And Doomhammer also helps you close out games, which is really, really nice about the burn / removal in this deck, is that it can help you close out games really easily, or it can help you remove things. But the reason why he strayed from Overload, a lot of Overload cards, is because you're running an aggro deck. This is very, very close to aggro in the mech theme that you can get. And you want to, especially in your early game, you want to start making a really good presence. And when you use removal spells, you want to use them. You don't want to have to use removal spells in the early game, I've noticed, because all you really have is Crackle early. And Power Mace is phenomenal removal. that doesn't have overload, which is nice. And so the overload it really sets you back on your curve, and it's really important to get creatures out on the board because it's a tribal deck. It's mechs, so you need that synergy. You need the stuff on the board. And I tried. I went against the list a little bit, and I tried going slightly mid-rangey and with the overload just to see how it worked, and it was bad. Like it hurt.
You upset the balance.
I did. I threw in one lightning storm though, because I was playing up against a lot of hunter and a lot of Zulok, surprisingly, and more mech mage and more mech shaman, and it helped. I think it as a one of is pretty decent. I can't remember what I took out. I think I took out one of. I think I took out one of my mech Yetis or one of my Azure Drakes. And the deck also originally ran a Black Knight, and I was running Earthshock over that, which is similar and things.
Is that a money thing?
That's my current list from what I saw online. Is just the two cards I took out, one of Lightning Storm and one Earthshock in for took out I think an Azure Drake and a Black Knight because I didn't have Black Knight. So, but overall, the ability to have really, really good early game presence, and to protect it with the removal that you have, is great. It is what makes this deck great, and it scales super, super well and has a phenomenal ramp. You have your turn one plays kind of suck. So having coin with this deck is pretty decent. Like you have Cogmaster and you have Rockbiter Weapon. Like in Rockbiter Weapon, you don't always want to play turn one unless they play like Undertaker, which is actually
Mana Worm.
Yeah, Mana Worm also, yeah. Your turn two is where you really start to scale out, and it's really good. You want to play your Annoyatrons and your Mech Warpers. Depending on what kind of game you want to play against somebody, usually you want to. I've been known to throw out Mech Warpers before I throw out Whirling Zapomatics because I want people to waste the removal on the Mech Warper rather than the Zapomatics. And then you want to throw down Flame Tongue Totem when you have, like, obviously in the most optimal situation where, like, you don't want to throw that down on an empty board. You want to throw that down when you have two creatures and they're ready to swing. And there's another big thing about this deck. The spare parts come so much in handy. Like, I thought, you don't have Antonidas in this deck, so spare parts aren't going to be as great. But the cool thing about it is that because you don't have Antonidas in this deck, you don't have to feel obligated to save them until the end of the game when you get Antonidas. And so being able to use these spare parts for free will is really, really nice. It's a nice feeling. And you scale out into Doomhammer, Azure Drake, Fire Elemental, and Dr. Boom in your late game. And Fire Elemental is probably my favorite card in the deck.
Oh, it's so strong.
It's just because it's a great body on its own, and its battle cry gets rid of. It's that card that says, okay, it's late game because, or it's going into late game because you're starting to kill all the mid game creatures with this guy. It's super, super helpful.
Yeah, that card's strong in ladder and arena. It's awesome.
Oh god,
that's an auto pick almost.
Yeah, this deck is really good for ladder. I don't know how well it's been doing in legend or anything or competitive wise, which I've noticed. There's a huge difference between the meta picks. Like for ladder, like ladder decks are very different than competitive decks. Like when you go to a sanctioned tournament or whatever. Or I guess I shouldn't say very different, but there is a significant difference because you want to be prepared for more things when you're going into ladder. Actually, I would claim so with Mech Shaman you have a lot of variety, and that's why it's really good to climb with ladder right now is because it's a great aggro deck. It can close the games quickly. It has the burst potential we talked about in Meta Anatomy, and it has a lot of things you can swap out depending on what you're going up against. Like I like throwing in Lightning Storm right now because of all of the Face Hunter I've seen, for example. So.
Yeah, the effect of the ladder on the meta or the tournament meta is not as big as you think it would be.
Yeah,
because of the room to counter, and yeah, it's just particularly when you get into those, like, I guess, deeper events where you play your best of threes, your best of fives, sort of thing, and you have to bring multiple decks. It's definitely less of a thing. So the more the tournament is like a ladder experience. So when you're playing like the Zotac singular limb. It might be single limb, but yeah, basically, so best of three singular limb is where you could like play a cheesy deck that like or an aggro deck and be really successful, is because it's quite limited. There's not a lot of room for error in those formats, and so you can just. This is where the aggro, just take them down sort of thing, is really nice. That you don't have the room to pick counters and stuff like that.
So
but yeah, I go on. So.
Well, Tom, you brought up Lightning Storm. How many are you guys running, if any at all?
One.
Just one? Okay.
Yeah.
It's the loneliest number, but it's
the overload is not like the overload is not worth it to run to. You want to be able to play on curve, and you want to be able to get your creatures out there because it's an aggressive deck. It's a very, very aggressive deck. It's, I would say, less tempo-y than Mech Mage, because Mech Mage just has better. I think Mech Mage has more solid removal.
Was it the? What is their Blast Mage? That is
Blast Mage nuts.
You get a body and removal. I mean, it's so strong.
It's a massive swing, and that's what the purpose of swapping in the Lightning Storm is to try and to swing it back into your favor. I guess why part of the reason why 2 is bad is that if you need to play 2, you probably lost anyway.
Yeah,
is a way to think about it. There would be obviously some niche circumstances where 2 would be good and playing 2 would win you games, but I don't think that's not going to happen the majority of the time. One is fine because it's sort of like it's similar to the reason why when in my zoo days I played 1 Hellfire, just because it gave me that.
Yes. I'm not the only one.
Well, in Zoo is a little bit different because with Nax and creating the death rattle pressure with your Nerubian eggs and such, and the haunted creepers, where you can basically, the value is massive. It's pretty unfair because you Hellfire, which kills your eggs and stuff, and so while you're wiping out their board, you're building massive tempo. And that's, I guess, where Lightning Storm is a little bit weaker, but it gives you that chance. That's why you don't even have to play 2, because as you said, the overload. The next turn is where you're supposed to, is part 2 of playing that Lightning Storm, or the rest of that turn. So say like you need to do on turn 5, the follow-up needs to be, you play a Cogmaster and something else, basically, to regain the tempo. Because while wiping the board is fine, if they go into their turn and basically outboards you again, you're basically in the same spot again.
Right.
So it really needs to be a card played so you can follow up. Is why it's in there.
I think,
and obviously to counter the mirror.
I think it's also stronger when you're getting up to in higher ranks too, because people will see, like, if you're playing up against, for example, a Zoolock or a Face Hunter, or even a Mech Mage, you're playing up against those guys in higher ranks, like around rank 10 and lower. They'll know, they'll more than likely be more familiar with the list you're running, and if you're playing up against those guys, them being more familiar with the list you're running, they'll think, okay, I can load up the board, and then you play Lightning Storm, and they go, oh shit, he didn't net deck. he's actually, he's thrown in some cards because he's not entirely stupid. So like doing sort of like messing with the deck is not like super duper important. Like if you don't do it, you're not going to win kind of thing. Like that's not true. But it's it's more important at different levels. So because I was playing up against a shit ton of Face Hunter, like even around rank 15, I was just like, I have to throw this in, and that's fine. I think the impact varies at different ranks. Well, I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of success, but I was playing more of the. I saw a mid-range version of this deck and was kind of interested in it, and it didn't run any. And now I see where the failing was. You've got to have a lot more smaller minions like Cogmaster and things like that in the deck.
Yeah, it definitely works better as an aggro. I think I tried. I might have tried the same list that you were. If you looked at it, if you list, I was looking at the list on the old tier list of the Magic game he put out last week. She said that aggro mech shaman and mid range mech shaman were like right around the bottom of tier 2 ish. And I tried out that mid range, and I didn't really like it so much. But I tried out the after that I switched to mech shaman, like the aggro list that everybody's playing now, and it's really better and more fun in my opinion.
The one version that I did see, and I talked to Matt a little bit, but I didn't spoil anything. What we tend to do before we start the show, everyone who listens, is sometimes we'll just get to talking and we'll just do the show without recording because we're like, hey, look what I saw. Speaking of that, So
next minute no show.
Should we?
Yeah. So I was playing it. Yeah, like I said earlier, I played a lot of Druid this week and did really well. And even when I lost games, it didn't tilt me or anything. I was just, really, I don't know, just calm, cool, collected. Until the last 2 games where it was one of those moments where I just dropped the keyboard and was like, nope, I'm done done playing.
I'm out.
Flip the table.
So,
it's over.
The second game that caused me to just say, I'm done. Yeah, flipping table moment. It was a mech shaman. And I don't necessarily recommend this deck, even though it beat me. I think I really lost because I was telling Mushu, it was literally, I was physically saying, what on earth am I looking at right now? What is this? I couldn't put it together. This was basically a mech shaman, some early cards, just to kind of get the board. And then he played a bunch of late game cards. So he was playing, let me find, the first card he pulled was a Sneed's Old Shredder. And this is where I was going, what am I seeing? Because the Druid I was running didn't have a lot of removal, but what I did had, I used a lot of it early because I thought it was going to be kind of an aggro shaman. So okay, got to get the mech border off the board, got to get the Whirling Zep-O-Matic off the board. Then he drops Sneed's Old Shredder. I'm like, what is going on? And he continues. He played a Ragnaros eventually in the game. He dropped, once I actually got his Sneeds dead, a Mechaneer Thermoplug dropped, which that's a 9/7 for 9, and it reads, whenever an enemy minion dies, summon a Leper Gnome. Thankfully, I had a BGH to get rid of that. But it didn't stop there. He ran a Kel'Thuzad, and he ran a Dr. Boom, and last card he ran that I thought synergized, he ran a Stalag and a, which I wasn't too surprised to see this in.
Stalag and Fugan?
Yeah, he ran both of those. I only saw the Fugan.
This was like a mid-range mech shaman.
It was like, here's all my early game stuff to really throw you off and try to get board control. And then I'm just gonna freaking blow your mind. And last one he played that I thought was really, as soon as they played it, I'm like, oh, that's smart. He played a Baron Rivendare.
Oh, yeah.
Which he had a bunch of Death Rattle minions, and he did get off a. He played Reincarnate. I only saw one, so I'm assuming he only had one in there.
So it was like a Reincarnate shaman.
Yeah, it was really interesting because it started out with really small removal and mech minions, and then moved into the larger ones. Now, here's the thing: I don't think it's necessarily a good deck. If I'd known what I was getting into, I think I would have had better answers for it. But I just wanted to bring it up because that was one of those moments where I'm just pulling my hair out, like, what on earth is going on right now?
I'm just losing for no reason.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of like when you play against a face hunter and they're making all these bad plays. You're like, why did you do that? And they still beat you.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments. Like you're so greedy playing these 8 drops, 7 drops, 6 drops, and you're still gonna beat me. What on earth is going on right now? Just disappointment. I was so disappointed in myself. That's why I quit. I'm done for the day. I gotta go.
I played a while back before Mech Shaman was a huge thing. I played up against a guy who had the God Mech Shaman hand, and I thought this was just like, you know, Mech Shaman is janky, you know, it's silly. Mech Mage is better. I played up against him and lost, and I was just like, that just solidifies how janky this deck is. Like, it's not actually good.
Nobody likes this.
But like what he did, I totally fucking lost. He goes turn 1 coin Mech Warper. I was like, oh shit, all right. Next turn, a Noyotron Whirling Zap-O-Matic swings to the face. I was like, what? This is ridiculous. And so next turn he goes Whirling Zap-O-Matic, Flame Tongue Totem. Between his Whirling Zap-O-Matics, I was like, shit. I killed his Mech Warper beforehand, or no. I killed his. Okay, that happened, and then next turn I killed his Mech Warper. Mm-hmm. And so all he had on board was an Anoyotron, 2 Whirling Zap-O-Matics, and a Flame Tongue Totem between them.
That's all. That's all he had on the board.
All right, well, I might die, but
is that all, sir?
And
Really?
then Bloodlust. I was like,
oh
this
wow,
is stupid.
Wow. See,
Fuck this game.
See, that's the type of thing where it's like, all right, you know what? You deserve the win because you got lucky. You know, do you feel like that's just a super inconsistent?
It was a turn 5 Bloodlust. I can't remember what happened turn 4. I think.
You were just blinded with rage. It's just been most of it's just been erased from your memory. And this is why I like advocate for aggro decks while wanting to cleanse a legend, because if this happens to you when you get to play your 1 or 2 control games, then you're not going to be able to play too much. But I suppose if you're dead on turn 5, then you're gonna get a couple more in.
Right. Like, I don't recommend playing Bloodlust. If you notice, really? Like the only time like you're able to win is by bursting. Like I would maybe throw it in as a one of if your matchups call for it. I don't really know how they would, or you're missing a card in the deck, and you want to run Bloodlust because you think it's cool. Yeah. I don't think it's a bad card. I just don't think. I think the way the list runs, the cards that we have in it are good. Like. The main swap outs I've seen people doing are they don't have Black Knight, so they'll run Earthshock, or they don't have Black Knight, so they'll run Ironbeak Owl. So
I think that'd be a perfect time to run Bloodlust, because that would fit in the curve. Like if you didn't have Black Knight, you could put in Bloodlust and try.
If you don't have Doomhammer, it's pretty okay to run Bloodlust.
Yeah, true. That would be all right.
Mushu, were you running any Bloodlust?
No, I was. But looking at the list, I was like, Bloodlust could be all right, but it would sort of.
It's just
the problem with it is it sort of. I get the feeling it sort of like solidifies a game you're already going to win, sort of thing.
Right.
Like pending a board wipe, and this is where it'd probably come in handy, is like when you can just smash through stuff. I think when you can make use of it, you're far enough ahead, basically.
Yeah, I feel like the only time it's kind of a, like you were saying, it's a win more card. I guess the only maybe against Fatigue Mage or Freeze Mage, it might be a good, because you can kill them before they get the chance to surprise them more, maybe. Yeah,
which is nice because you can already do that. The thing, you can do that with Bloodlust. It makes it much more possible. The Control Warrior is that would be decent, and Control Paladin that would be decent against, because Pally has had, I don't know if this is like its main shtick, but Pally has this thing where every time I play against it, they get all of the cards that heal them, and I don't have the juice. I can't push through. Or I couldn't, rather, until I started playing Mech Shaman, where I could push through sometimes. So if I was lucky or they were unlucky.
Got to get that juice.
Got to get them juice.
Gotta just finish them. That's what I hate about sometimes about playing aggro decks is that point when you know you've run out of juice and it's just like. But yeah, no, that's that feeling of just being like, shit, he dropped another Ancient of War that I can't burst through. I hate my life, and I just want to concede to move on to the next one.
What do you feel like the downsides to, or if you're playing against this, how do you beat it?
You play Freeze Mage.
Pretty much.
It's basically that. If you hit your board clears on curve, then you're probably going to be okay.
Okay.
So, your turn 4 Consecrate, your turn 4 Organize circle thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's but where it comes, I guess, a little bit stronger is it has the power. It has that breakthrough power with, like the power mace sort of thing, where you can hit the creature, have it break, and smack it with a buffed neck, and that's the thing. And I guess one of the ways that I was losing playing this was you really need to focus on board pressure early is what you need. That if that doesn't happen early, then you're pretty gone. Like I got out boarded by a mech mage a couple of times, and that's sort of, I suppose, a little bit of support for Lightning Storm is that if that happens, you can sort of wreck their shit and then
kind of reset. Yeah.
Basically a reset and hope it falls in your favor, basically. I think, that's how I lost with it. The rest of the time, it was sort of like, I just win. I'm bigger than you. I win. And then I was telling you about that game just before where I neglected to clear a Flame Tongue Totem on 10 HP.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And he tops Alakia, and I was like, what? I was like, who runs Alakia? It's like, I'm such an idiot. Because I thought about it, I was like, okay, what can he top that would kill me with this totem out? Based on what I've seen, probably nothing. Like a Zap-O-Matic would, you'd have to wait for another turn. But no, Alakia, I haven't seen. It's like, first of all, I hadn't seen Shamans in ages until this, boom. Secondly, Alakia was even rarer than that because Alakia was being phased out around sort of when the preliminaries for the World Championships last year, because everyone was favoring, and particularly most famously Charky, if you know who that is, ex-player for Team Coast, was running 2 Doom Hammers in some of the lead-up events to the World Championship,
and
to
interrupt real quick, they were giving him crap for that. The announcers were like, 2, wow.
and his reasoning for 2 wasn't so much about using 2. The idea was to draw it, or he just wanted to increase his draw chance. And I guess it was sort of deemed, he deemed it more versatile than Alakia, and that was sort of the trend that was set from there. But but let's be honest, Alakia is a very satisfying card to play.
Oh yeah.
I still don't know what he says when he attacks.
I
haven't Googled it, but just something about this is insane.
Does it say thanks for the incense? Maybe that's what he says. I don't know.
Thanks for the incense.
Yeah, I don't know. Thanks for the insects. I don't know. I don't know. Rant. My other question was Power Mace. Was there ever a bad time to play Power Mace, you felt like?
No, not really. Like, you were watching one of the games and that I played when I had Power Mace on turn 3, and if I had have topped a mech on turn 4, it would have been like the game right there, just because of the tempo swing. I personally think that while obviously you want to hit the death rattle, is sort of like those times when you have, all you have in your hand is a mind control tech or something like that. Hitting the effect is really nice when you can, but other than that, I think it's still better to take like the board clear over waiting to hit your death rattle. So I don't think there's a bad time to play it in that regard. obviously it's quite intuitive. Obviously aim to hit a mech with it, or to proc a mech. That's sort of like I guess the later game cool thing about this deck is like you can on turn 5 you can destroy your power mace by playing a Doom Hammer, and then give your that's a bit of burst as well. Like Whirling Zap-O-Matic with the boost, it's like 5/5, so you hit it for 10, and with Doom Hammer you'd be hitting like you could hit for 14.
Oh yeah,
like,
I've hit for 15 in one turn. Because like I was top decking bullcrap, and all I had was Whirling Zap-O-Matic on board, and I had Mech Mace in hand, or Power Mace in hand, or whatever, and I top decked Doom Hammer, and I was like, shit, wait. So I played Doom Hammer, or I played the Power Mace, swung first, and then played the Doom Hammer.
Oh, okay.
And then because Wind Fury says you can attack twice, so I 5 damage, and then I get the +2/+2 to my other guy, and then I swung for 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really cheeky mechanic.
Yeah, next level plays.
I had not thought of that. That is ridiculous. I'm gonna have to test that to make sure you're not full of shit.
Well, I swear to God, it happened.
People do that with Control Warrior all the time with their Death Bite. They'll place another weapon over it to get that whirlwind, basically.
No, but what I'm saying is the power. So hit with Power Mace, and then play Doom Hammer, and then being able to attack on the same turn is what I mean. So
wait. Oh,
so you can't do that with normal weapons. You can't do that with normal weapons, but because
Doom Hammer,
Wind Fury, so the text on Wind Fury says it can attack twice. So you have. I only get to hit for 5. I didn't get to hit twice with the.
But you got to hit once with the Power Mace and then once with the Doom Hammer on that turn.
Right, because Doom Hammer says Wind Fury.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's why I'm sort of like I want to play test this to make sure.
Wow. I would have figured it was all right. You've already attacked with a weapon.
Yeah, you missed. Your Wind Fury window sort of thing. Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
Interesting. Okay.
I did it. It happened.
Wow.
You heard it here first. DRC. What of first.
Changing the meta, one Control Warrior at a time. Any other tips, either playing this deck or playing against this deck that you guys can think of?
If you're playing up against a lot of Oil Rogue, probably stop. just stop playing for a bit, because Oil Rogue is a hard matchup.
Okay.
And Control Warrior and Face Hunter. Face Hunter you can deal with. I have a feeling you can deal with Control Warrior. I just don't know how. But Oil Rogue, I have yet to find.
Nobody knows how. The one tip I can give is drop Dr. Boom on turn 7, if not turn 6.
Yeah.
Okay. It seems to be a winning play across all decks, I hear.
Dr. Balance. I've seen him in Face Hunter.
Dr. Motherfucking GG.
That's right. So here's the thing. I was waiting to get one, and I opened a 60 pack, and I got 2. So I have one. I have not dusted it yet because I'm waiting for the nerf to come. I want to get my full value out of that Dr. Balance. I don't know if it's actually going to come. I haven't heard any word. It's all rumor and speculation at this time, but there may be a Dr. Balance in the future.
I think it's happen.
You don't think so?
Well,
making it a 7/5 would make it really balanced.
What if it was an 8-drop?
The weird thing about Dr. Boom is, unlike a lot of the cards that have been nerfed, he doesn't fill a niche, if you get what I mean. Yeah. So like a card like Lower Theb, it's good in all decks.
That's
Dr. Boom isn't inherently better in Zoo like Undertaker was, that sort of thing. He's has the same value across all the decks pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's why, like, that could be a reason why he needs to be nerfed, but I think that's probably why he hasn't been nerfed yet. Obviously, GVG's really young, but that's what I think is like. Yeah, he's doesn't lose anything by being played in a certain deck, nor does he gain anything.
Now, here's the thing with Lotheb, because what you were saying, that makes a lot of sense, because I think Lotheb is a really strong card. I don't think it's overpowered necessarily, but it's just good card.
Yeah.
No one's ever really talked about it being nerfed or anything. So you feel like Dr. Boom's the same way? It's just it's there to stay. That's how it is. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's a 7. It's got 7 attack. You can get rid of it with a BGH.
I think they will. I think they will nerf him eventually, but it'll probably take as long as Undertaker took. Is what I think, because the fact that he's being we look at historically at cards that have been played in all decks. So one of the things was early on was Novice Engineer when it was a 1/2.
Yeah.
Shattered Sun Cleric when it was both Shattered Sun Cleric and Defender of Argus when they were both 3/3s.
Those are auto included.
Argent Crusader when he was a 4/3.
Mm-hmm.
They all got nerfed because they were being played in essentially every deck.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think those are the main and of course Nat Pagle. That's fun.
I love it because there was a time where everybody played Nat Pagle. That was the card.
I just remember watching at the time the biggest thing that was Hearthstone like media related was it was called Fight Night, which was for those of you who don't know, it was a company called ESGN TV. They've since gone broken.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big, earlier last year, there was a big thing about how they didn't pay out the Fight Night winners and stuff like that. And this is where sort of Team Hearthstone was originally made. But anyway, back to the point, was there were games where the pro players were like sitting on the webcam, and every time they got a card with Pagle would just throw their hands on like a fishing rod because it's like they've caught a fish, and they essentially win the games because it's RNG winning games. Like that.
Yeah.
That was the most prevalent example of RNG winning games. The one card I did miss as to was nerfed because it's being played in every deck was what's his name? The Goblin, the legendary No, the legendary one, not Mecha Talk. The
not Mech. Where it would change either 1/1 or 5. What is it called? I'm looking for it.
Dude. Yeah, it's like I'm flicking through my file. I'll see it eventually, and because it's
Kingmaster Overspark.
Yeah, Tinkmaster Overspark. He was being used as like a removal because
that
a lot
is
of the
gnome, sir.
Ooh.
Not a goblin. Get called out on your lore.
No, I said Gelbin.
Oh, I thought you said goblin. Okay.
No, it's like, how dare you challenge me on my lore? Yeah. So he was being used to basically attack threats that were worse than a 1/1 squirrel, obviously,
Right.
or a 5/5 devil saw.
I don't have that card. Yeah.
Yeah, where the hell has it gone?
Yeah.
I can't see it.
I was looking for it. It's because I don't have one.
Drop.
Yeah.
Maybe I got like hella poor and no, I've got it. I can see it. Tinkmaster as fuck.
I remember I crafted it and played it, and then they nerfed it, and I dusted it because you could get your the full amount back.
Yeah, I've never done that. I've never disenchanted something for it. Like I didn't touch my Leroy. I look at my Leroy.
Yeah.
No, Leroy's still good.
I think it's a bounce card. Now that Leroy, I don't think. I mean, I didn't have any problem with its cost before. I think it was just too easy to get the combo off in Rogue because it was one less.
Leroy.
I wanted to put Leroy in oil, or in the Mech Shaman, but just because I loved Leroy, he's one of my favorite cards. He's like so derpy and like Herder. I have a like really ridiculously high power charge. I wanted to put it in there, but the like couple brain cells in the back of my head that have intelligence were like, hey, that isn't going to win you games, and winning games is fun. And I was like,
if you get like mech Leroy, so like he's like a robot or something and summons 2 mech whelpings, That would be fantastic because then you could just
Oh yeah.
It'd be like
Be
it would
mech.
be the mech Yeti, except the mech Yeti
Basically.
transition.
Yeah, exactly. You just use the art from the mechanical whelping from from Dragonling Mechanic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, that would be cool. I like.
Yeah, it's like an even smaller little whelping. But yeah, it's like tangents are us all the way from Doctor Who not being nerfed because it's a balance across all decks sort of thing. I think it will be nerfed just because it's played. Yeah, I think they would like look at things that are played on percentages, and it'd be close. It'd be too high at the moment.
Are we
I
still
think.
talking about Doctor Boom being nerfed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
Oh
talking
Jesus.
Doctor Bounced as Tattoo over here has.
That's
been
right. That's where I see it everywhere. It's always like on Twitch chat. It's like go Dr. Balance, and then you see a Kappa face or the sleeping face. I don't know. I think it's just I don't have a problem with the card. I think.
I don't either. It's not impacting the meta like enough, in my opinion, to be.
The only way I think I've seen it impacted is you see more BGHs being played. And,
Yeah.
Well,
like it has an answer.
Yeah.
Well,
The thing about Undertaker is that it didn't have an answer.
Right.
Well, it either had an answer or it didn't have an answer. Like you had to kill it early in the game, or it was a BGH target late game.
And
So-
you see it everywhere when you watch streams. You'll see it everywhere. I think people. I don't know. I don't think Again, I don't put a lot of faith in Twitch chat necessarily. I think it's just
people.
I know. Yeah, it's not the will of the people.
Kappa for president, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think you just see a lot of people say, oh, it's Dr. Boom, Snore, Resident Sleeper. It's a solid card. Because even if you BGH it, you still have those boombots to deal with.
I think it will be nerfed because it's commanding so it's basically commanding everyone played a Dr. Boom and everyone play a BGH. So that's nearly 10% of your deck. So 10% of your deck is already decided based on like meta constraints. And that's what Blizzard really have been really staying away from things you have to do because we're supposed to stay fun. And while staples will always be staples, I don't think there's not a situation in where Dr. Boom is a bad card sort of thing.
Right.
Like something like Black Knight that seems sort of stapley is, it's only good if people are playing a lot of Sludge Belchers and stuff like that. Dr. Boom seems to be good at all stages, all decks, that sort of thing. And I think that's a problem.
And
even though it's fair sort of thing. Right.
And
it's fair.
As I've said multiple times, and it's just going to get better as we get more packs. I don't have a problem with it because we're seeing more decks on ladder. It's fine, even if it's played in all of them. I'm seeing more variety. I'm okay with it. Whatever.
Whatever.
And you know what? It's in Mech Shaman too. So
put it this way, I'll go along with whatever Blizzard goes along with.
That's right. Resident fanboy right here.
Yeah, Blizz for Prez, right?
Yes.
I don't ever really. There's never been a moment. I don't think there's ever really been a moment where I was like, that change is stupid, Blizzard. Why did you do this? I hate this game. I'm never going to play again. And even through World of Warcraft, the only sort of thing that I ever hated in there was adding the LFR looking for raid system. But
God damn, this is terrible.
That's another debate.
I hated Group Finder. If they would have made Group Finder just you find the group. That's it. That's it. I don't want to be taken to that. I don't want to be taken to that dungeon. I don't want to be given bonuses. Then that's what runs the game now.
I have so much to say on this topic. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not going to go down it, but I have so much to say on that topic.
Once again, I know our listeners oh, tangent number 2.
I'll prevent myself from going down that tangent. It's just so long. And but yeah, Mech Shaman, good stuff.
Mech Shaman, indeed.
This part is actually Deck of the Week, not Meta Anatomy, or as we like to call it, the rant section.
Rant anatomy.
Rant anatomy. It's mechs with Meat Fury and all the fun of Crackle all rolled into one, which is lots of fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Really powerful right now.
If there was like a goblin shaman blast, a goblin blast shaman, then this deck would
God.
be like god tier sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very much, and we'll be right back. Thank you for joining us again this week. You can find us at www.deathrattlecrew.com. You can email us at mail@deathrattlecrew.com. And don't forget, you can search Death Rattle Crew on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube and find past shows and videos, as well as some live things that we'll have in the future. Till next time, thank you guys. See you next week.